Well, okay. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Today is July 6th. This is the GWP meeting, Glendale Water and Power Commission meeting. A small announcement as to why we're having this meeting in this format. It's due to the evolving situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus and health recommendations from the LA County Health Department. The Glendale Water and Power Commission meeting will be available to the public electronically. With that said, we have the commissioners over the phone, and we are ready to begin. Let's go with the first item, which is roll call.
Commissioner Avanesian,
Here.
Commissioner Flanagan,
Here.
Commissioner Law,
Present.
Commissioner Jasmadarian,
Here.
President Kadikian.
Here. All right, next item is the consent item.
2A, approval of the March 2nd to 2020 meeting minutes.
All right. So, I don't know if everybody had an opportunity to read the minutes of the March 2 meeting. And to kind of keep things orderly, I'll give you everybody about a minute or two, and then I will go alphabetically and call on each commissioner to comment or not, and we'll move on that way. All right. Commissioner Avanesian, any comments on the minute?
No, actually, I read it and I don't have any exceptions.
Thank you. Commissioner Flanagan, any comments about the March 2nd meeting?
No, I do not.
Okay. Commissioner Jasmadian, any comments about the March 2 meeting?
No comments, but I think I might need to abstain since I wasn't on the commission in March
I understand.
yet.
No problem. And Commissioner Lal, any comments on the meeting?
No comment.
Okay. I don't have any comments. With that, I move to approve the meeting. Is that the proper procedure, Ms. Godinez?
Yeah, given an item of this nature, Mr. President, they can be approved summarily as such.
So the minutes of the meeting are approved. Okay. Next item, GWP Commission staff comments.
President Kadikian, my name is Michael DeGhetto, Chief Assistant General Manager for Water, and I do have a couple of comments. The first thing I wanted to do is introduce the two new commission members, and I'll just go in order of when they were appointed. And the first one's Nina Jasmadarian, and I wanted to ask her if she had any comments that she'd like to say coming on to the commission.
I'm very excited to be on the commission, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Thank you.
And then the next new commissioner is Ted Flanagan, and I wanted to ask Commissioner Flanagan if he had any comments that he'd like to make.
Oh, thank you very much, Michael. And I just wanted to say to my fellow commissioners, I very much look forward to working with you and working on behalf of the city and Glendale Water and Power. I think we're at a very exciting time in the electric utility industry. I've been in this industry now for 34 years, and we're seeing rapid transformation that spells great opportunities for Glendale. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for the opportunity, Michael.
President Kadikian, and I have a few more comments, and I have another intro. And I wanted to introduce Atine Haratunian, who's our Public Benefits Marketing Manager. And she had a little presentation and a video that she wanted to show about an award that GWP received. So I'll turn that over to Atine, who I think's on the call.
Okay. Go ahead, Tina.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commission President Kadikian and members of Commission. My name is Atine Hartunian, and I'm the Public Benefits Marketing Manager for Glendale Water and Power. I wanted to share some great news about Glendale Water and Power's accomplishments with you today. As a public power utility, we are members of the American Public Power Association, also known as the APPA. The APPA is the voice of not-for-profit, community-owned utilities that power 2,000 towns and cities nationwide. The APPA represents public power before the federal government to protect the interests of more than 49 million people that public power utilities serve and the 93,000 people that they employ. APPA advocates and advises on electricity policy, technology, trends, training, and operations. APPA members strengthen their communities by providing superior service, engaging citizens, and instilling pride in community-owned power. Each year, the APPA has national awards to recognize excellence in electric utility operations and leadership. We entered our Devote Volunteer Program, which stands for Dedicated Employees that Volunteer Our Time and Energy. This is a program we created to give our employees opportunities to serve the Glendale community outside of work by volunteering. Some of the activities we took up through Devote were making breakfast for the homeless clients at Essencia, sponsoring a family through the YWCA shelter, working with Glendale Unified School District, and collecting much-needed school supplies for foster care and homeless kids, to just name a few. We entered Devote into APPA's Sue Kelly Community Service Award category. This award recognizes a community-owned utility for good neighbor activities that demonstrate the commitment of the utility and its employees to enhancing the quality of life of the community it serves. And we won. This is the first year we had our Devote program, and for us to win this award is a great honor that shows our commitment to our community and shows that our employees believe in the power of human connection and how their selfless actions can help foster a more productive, innovative, and collaborative society, and that by harnessing our collective power, we help achieve lasting social impact for the greater good. We're very proud of this honor, and we also have a video we made with GTV6 that shows the different activities through Devote. We wanted to show our community the different volunteering activities. I can share that with you now, or we can email it for you to view later, but we've also shared this on our social media platforms, and I think Catalina has it up. So if you'd like, I can wait, because I have another bit of information to share after the video, so I'll wait for the video.
Very well.
For years, Glendale Water and Power employees have donated to causes in the community. This year, to further their community involvement, they founded the employee volunteer program called Devote, which stands for Dedicated Employees Volunteering Our Time and Energy. In addition to donating money to worthy causes, GWP employees took the extra step and started volunteering their personal time to help with the community. Aside from volunteering in the community, GWP employees also dedicate their time to represent GWP and promote the utility's various programs. You'll see them at many community events such as Cruise Night, Health Festivals, One Glendale Tournaments, and Tech Week. GWP employees believe the power of human connection can help foster a more productive, innovative, and inclusive society. By harnessing our collective power, we help achieve lasting social impact for the greater good. Glendale Water and Power, connecting our community and making a difference.
Thank you. Additionally, for more good news, we have earned another designation. IPPA has different designations for utilities to apply for. One, as you know, is the Reliable Public Power Provider, which we have already successfully earned for many years. GWP recently applied for APPA's Smart Energy Provider, or SEP designation. The SEP designation is a best practices designation for utilities that show commitment to and proficiency in energy efficiency, distributed generation, renewable energy, and environmental initiatives. The purpose of the Smart Energy Program is to provide national recognition of utility efforts to incorporate energy efficiencies and sustainability while providing affordable electric service. Additionally, achieving SCP designation will help public power utilities benchmark and evaluate their work on these topics against a set of industry best practices. Currently, 67 public power utilities out of 2,000 utilities nationwide hold an SCP designation, and GWP just earned this designation last week on our first try. We are beyond honored to be included on the list of prestigious utilities with this designation. Although it hasn't been officially announced, which will happen in October of this year at APPA's virtual summit, we wanted to share this great news with you. Once we formally receive this designation, we'll make sure to highlight our efforts. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to share our accomplishments with you. Please join GWP in celebrating our efforts and showing our community our dedication to our customers, customer service, our community, and our commitment in energy efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harutyunyan, and thank you for welcome aboard. At some point, we'll get to see you and welcome you in person.
Thank you.
President Kadiki and I had two more items. The next one I wanted to talk about was our consumer confidence report is recently published, and if any customer that wants to go see it can go to our webpage. On the left side, you would click About Your Water. And if you scroll down, it has a link to all the water quality reports from previous years. It's called the Water Quality Consumer Confidence Report. And it's posted online now, and if anyone wants to take a look at that, they can. And we'll come back to the commission and do a presentation on that as well.
Very well, thank you.
In a future meeting. And then just the last thing I wanted to bring up, and we talk about this in social media, we talk about it on our webpage, but it's just for everyone to be aware of scams. If someone calls and leaves a message and says that we're going to turn off your power unless you call in and give us your credit card number, or we're going to turn off your water, that's not true. Don't answer that call. Don't return the call. And if anything, you can call our customer service department and talk to them about that. But that's something we would never do. And those kind of scams and spoofs go out to us and all our neighboring utilities as well. So everybody should be very careful about that.
Well, I hope the public is aware of those kinds of scams that are going out. There's many kinds nowadays, but just keep an eye on these. And if they're not sure, they could always find the number for GWP and call in and check.
Yeah, exactly.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to welcome the two new commissioners, Ms. Jazmadian and Mr. Flanagan. Thank you. I look forward to working with you. At some point, we will meet in person. But until then, welcome aboard, and we'll work together.
Thank you.
All right. Now, did any of the commissioners want to comment about the staff comments?
Do you want to do a roll call? Do
Sure.
you know when to pipe in, or?
Well, go ahead. You're online, Sanjaline. Go ahead.
Hi,
Sarojini,
this
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. This is Commissioner Lal. I just wanted to congratulate you all on the honor. That's wonderful news. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we applaud your efforts to connect all of the folks who are working in the utility with wonderful causes in the city. I do have a question, and I don't know if now is the right time to ask it, but if Mr. DeGhetto would like to speak to any changing demands on the electrical system or on the water system. I don't know if that's something that we're going to be discussing during this meeting, but I would love to hear about how the pandemic has affected GWP's operations and the demands on the system. And then finally, I'd really like to extend a warm, if physically distant, welcome to the two new commissioners. I really do look forward to working with both of you. I know you both bring a lot of experience and insight with you into these roles, and so we're just looking forward to working with you and hearing your fresh perspective on the issues that we examine at this commission.
Okay, I'll give Mr. DeGhetto the opportunity to respond to your question, and then I'm going to go through each and give an opportunity to every commissioner. This way it'll be easier, I think. Go ahead, Mr. DeGhetto.
President Kadiki and Commissioner Lal, that's a very detailed question about the demands, and it's not agendized, so I would just give a very kind of brief discussion as far as, our primary customer base is residential, and our demands are really weather driven. So So the effects have really been related to if it's wet and raining and cool, demands are low, and when it's warmer and drier, demands are higher. And so there hasn't really been much of an impact as far as it relates to that, but that's something that we could agendize and bring back and have a discussion on in more detail.
We'll consider that. Okay. Commissioner Avanesian, did you want to comment or ask any questions about the staff comments?
I myself, I'm glad to learn about two new commissioners, and for sure we'll be cooperating with each other. And if they have any question from me, they can email me or call me. And I like the Hartunian, presentation. That was a great work that they're doing. But the first shot shows some bags in their hand. Who knows what are those bags in different colors?
Go ahead, Mr. Delgado.
Hi. Do you want me to respond to that?
Oh, sure.
It's
Go
Tina.
ahead. Sure. Go ahead, Tina.
The bags in our hands are the food donations that we had collected for the Salvation Army Food Bank. So not only did we volunteer at the food bank to help organize the store at the food bank, but every time we showed up to do that, we did donate and food, and the employees donated canned food and dried goods, and we would bring those bags and help organize those as well. So those were the bags in the picture.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thank you. Commissioner Flanagan, did you have any comments or questions?
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. President. First off, just thank you all for the warm welcome. It is a great honor to be here, and I know, speaking for myself and the other new commissioner, we look forward to working with everybody on the commission and contributing. And then, Tina, there's a fantastic awards from the APPA. Big congrats to the team. I am thrilled to hear that you won the Smart Energy Provider Award in particular, given my interest in energy efficiency and renewables. And I really believe that winning these kinds of awards builds momentum and really causes us to want to win again. And that means we've got to step it up again and again. So, again, congratulations to you and the team at Glendale Water and Power for winning those awards. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Commissioner Jasmadarian, did you want to comment or ask questions?
Sure. I would also like to thank you for the wonderful welcome we've received. And finally, congratulations on the awards to the staff at Glendale Water and Power. That's wonderful work that you are doing and volunteering and dedicating such time to the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all commissioners and staff members. I don't think there's any further questions with that agenda item. So let's move on to item number 4, reports information.
4A, PFAS chemical monitoring in the City of Glendale water supply.
President Kandikian, members of the commission, my name is Michael Delgado, Chief Assistant General Manager for Water, and I'm going to give an overview of PFAS. We call it PFAS, is like the acronym, in the City of Glendale's water supply. And before I go to the next slide, I've mentioned before, I try not to have equations and things like that in my presentations. So the next one's actually some chemical symbols. So if anyone can bear with that. Basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about, so what is that? And if you PFAS, you hear about that in the news, and it's the plurifluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And really, it's a family of about 10,000.
For the people on the phone, could you please mute your phones? We're getting background noise over here. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Delgado.
Yeah, it's a family of about 10,000 synthetic chemicals that have been in use and been developed since the 1940s. And there's two that we're really concerned about, the PFOS and the PFOA. And that's where I'm showing the chemical symbols for those, which is just really those symbols are like a representation of the atoms that make up those chemicals. In case, you haven't, if a person really hasn't seen those kind of symbols like that. And sometimes they're shown where they look like atoms stuck together in different sizes. And what they are is they're chemicals that are used to make things non-stick, like cookware, dental floss, fast food packaging, water resistance, like in carpets. I know a lot of times on carpets, like you might see a commercial where the water beads up on top of the carpet if you spill something on it. It has one of these chemicals in it. Hiking boots, rain gear. And
Are we having a technical difficulty?
Is there a problem?
Yeah, I can't hear.
I've got my...
The audio cut out about 30 seconds ago.
Okay.
On the television?
Okay, well, go ahead, Mr. DeGhetto. Can you hear Mr. DeGhetto now? Mr. DeGhetto, you want to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me giving my presentation?
Now we can. We can hear.
Oh, maybe
Okay.
it's me.
Let's proceed.
Okay. So those chemicals are used to make things non-stick, like cookware, dental floss, fast food packaging, carpets, hiking boots, rain gear. And they're also used for what they call like a Class B fire, which would be flammable liquids like oils and fuel, like in airports and military bases, and at refineries. So any sort of contaminants or things like that in drinking water is regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency. And then here in California, it's by the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Drinking Water. And on our website, I've got links to both of these sites that give some more information that anybody wants to read more about the EPA and how they talk about the PFAS chemicals and what the State Water Board talks about that. So the reason it's a concern for us is we have various local water sources, which are our wells, and we pump out of what's called the Upper Los Angeles River area. And one of the basins we pump from is the San Fernando Basin. And about 25% of the city's water supply comes from the San Fernando Basin. Now, all the water that we pump from the San Fernando Basin goes through the Glendale Operable Unit, which is the EPA Superfund cleanup project. And it was initially started to clean up industrial solvents. And over time, there was another contaminant of concern, and we currently have removal from a chemical called chromium-6, which was related to chrome plating plants. And now that plant, because we have that plant in place, it's already treating for the PFAS. To give an overview of how our plant works. So, as I mentioned, it's part of a Superfund cleanup project. And it's funded by, it's called the Glendale Respondents Group. And that's related to a consent decree that finalized this cleanup of that Superfund operable unit. And it started operation in the year 2000. So since the year 2000, we've been, the city's been running this plant. And what I'm showing in the graphic is there's extraction wells that are intended to accumulate the groundwater contamination and then put it through the treatment plant and remove it. And we have one well that goes through the ion exchange, and that removes the chromium-6. But all the wells go through a couple of processes. There's air stripping that removes those industrial solvents, which are also called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. And then we even have treatment on the exhaust air from that air stripping that removes it further before the air is released to the atmosphere. And then it goes through, when I say GAC, it's granular activated carbon that removes the remaining volatile organic compounds. It goes to a reservoir or a Grandview facility, and we blend it further with water from Metropolitan Water District and pump it out. That's where the finished water comes out. So that granular activated carbon is also a treatment system for PFAS. So, this whole time that we've had that plant in place, it's been removing PFAS, even before that was a chemical that was a concern. So as I mentioned, the State Water Resources Control Board Division of Drinking Water is our main regulator. So they gave us an order in March of 2019 to start testing for the PFOA and PFOS, and specifically in the south well field that goes to that treatment facility. And in addition to that, we test the effluent from the treatment plant and the effluent at that Grandview facility, just to ensure that, the treatment plant's removing the PFOA and the PFOS, which are two of those 10,000 chemicals that are part of that PFAS family. And just to give an idea, these chemicals we test down to the parts per trillion, which is like an extremely low level. And because those chemicals are used in so many products, there is a pretty detailed sampling procedure that I was gonna just mention a couple things about. So the staff that take the samples, there's a list of things that they can't do 24 hours before they collect the sample. And it includes they can't use cosmetics, moisturizer, sunblock, fragrance, or any kind of personal care products. They can't handle prepackaged food or food wrapped in aluminum foil. They can't use new or unwashed clothes, and they can't use any clothes that were washed with fabric softeners or dried with anti-static sheets, because that those chemicals are in so many things like Teflon. They use them on glass bottles. Like the staff can't use waterproof or treated paper in their notebooks. Like if they have some notebooks that are water resistant, they can't use that. They can't use waterproof markers like Sharpies. And they can't use Post-it notes or Scotch tape. So those chemicals are in so many different things that the staff that collects it has to follow all those procedures even before they collect those samples. So, and then we have this posted on our webpage. The results, so we had to do basically a year's worth, 4 quarters of results on those two chemicals, the PFOA and the PFOS. So what I'm showing here are the wells that were tested. It's the 5 south wells that are part of that operable unit. We just call them Glendale South 1, Glendale South 2. That's what the GS1, GS2, that kind of thing means. And we're showing this in nanograms per liter, which is part per trillion. And it's the EPA testing method, which I was reading from some of that. And down in the notes, it talks about the notification level and the response level. Is notifications 5.1 part per trillion, response level is 10 for the PFOA, and for PFOS it's 6.5 and 40. So if we look at PFOA on the various wells, we're above the response level, and then on GS1, and in the PFOS, we're a little bit below the response level there. But then what I'm showing is in the green, that's after treatment at the treatment plant. And then the red is even further downstream after it goes to our facility before we pump it to the system. So it's non-detect in those areas because the treatment plant, that granular activated carbon's removing those chemicals.
So the ND on the screen for whoever's viewing on the TV is basically no detect.
Non-detect, yeah, that's what we call it. So, as I noted, those response levels and notification levels, DDW is still working on this. In February of this year, they reduced those levels. And like I mentioned, we're already removing that, and we've been removing it even before anyone knew that it was an issue. DDW is going to give us a new order to keep monitoring, and in the meantime, we're working with DDW on what we call it's a permit amendment on our permit to operate our water system, and it'll have very specific requirements about these two chemicals for that treatment plant. It's basically to codify or to put in the permit what we're already doing to make it official as part of that permit. And that'll include continuing to monitor for it. And, really this just gets back to when I talk about this all the time. It's, we take seriously our responsibility to protect and treat and distribute safe water to our community. And just, things like this in the news, it's like a good reminder about how important it is to protect those resources. And it's really our staff, it's our team of professionals that are focused on their service to the community that make sure that the water's safe. And, we take more than 5,700 water quality samples every year, and we monitor the compliance with 2,200 backflow prevention assemblies. And of course, we stay up to date with the new regulations and with the water quality trends from where we purchase most of our water from Metropolitan Water District. All I got. So if anybody has any questions, yeah, happy to answer that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. DeGhetto. So I'm going to go through each commissioner and give them an opportunity to ask any questions. And at the end, I'll come back and just do a general question from anybody who wants to add as a follow-up. All right, Commissioner Avanesian, did you have any questions or comments about the presentation?
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. It was very scientific. And my question is, where are the equipment of this process, this facility located in Glendale? And my second question is, how much was the cost of this facility? How much we invested for that?
Commissioner Avanesian, so it's located proximate to our utility operations center. So near the power plant.
Near Grayson? The power plant,
Okay.
you mean Grayson, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
it's near Grayson.
Yeah. And the cost to the city was nothing because that Glendale respondents group, which started out, there's a process under CERCLA and with the EPA where they initially call them potentially responsible parties. And then typically maybe there's it's like a lawsuit that you go through. And then usually part of that is the group that ends up settling changes their name from responsible parties to something. And in this case, they're the Glendale Respondents Group.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Avanesian, did you have any follow-up questions?
No, thank you very much.
All right, Commissioner Flanagan, any questions or comments?
Yeah, just very quickly, Michael, very interesting presentation. And it looked like GS1, that one particular well had considerably more contaminants than the other 4 wells. Is that right? I just sort of quickly looked at it, but
Commissioner Flanagan, yeah, that's correct. And that well I think, like I mentioned, as part of the Superfund project, that's the well that kind of has some of the highest concentrations of all the contaminants that we're removing. So I didn't go into it, but the wells are laid out in a way to help capture the plumes of contaminants to prevent them from going further downstream. And that one well's like one of the main ones with the highest concentrations.
Okay, so yeah, that made it clear to me. You don't really have, it's definitely important to maintain operations at that well.
Yes, definitely. For the, they call it the remedy. The EPA and the work that they did and the report they have, they call it the remedy. And that's a very important part of the remedy.
And then my second question is just, are the manufacturers of these PFOAs and PFOSs, is this continuing? Still have more of these chemicals entering our environment, entering our water? Or is that a thing of the past, largely?
So I mentioned that there's 10,000 kind of versions of those chemicals. So the PFOS and PFOA are no longer manufactured, and they haven't been manufactured for a while. But some of the other chemicals are still in production, and that's something that the EPA is working on, making a determination about, doing testing to see what the adverse health effects are of those newer chemicals. And I think one of the things I didn't mention, but that the chemical symbol I showed, they call it like a long chain chemical because there's a lot of atoms that are part of that. And one of the issues with these two chemicals are they don't break down very quickly and they can accumulate in the body. So that's the concern on those two, the PFOA and the PFOS, why they stop making them before the other chemicals. And then to answer your question further, some of the newer versions are shorter chain and they break down more quickly.
Very good, thank you. And I won't ask you for your dental opinion, but I'm alarmed that those chemicals are in dental floss.
Yeah, I mean, they're Teflon cookware. I mean, yeah,
they're not very much in our society. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Jasmadarian, any questions or comments?
Good presentation, Mr. DeGhetto. Just a quick question. You said 25% of the source of supplies from the San Fernando Basin. What about the other 75%? What is the level of PFOA and PFOS in that?
Oh, it's non-detect. The PFOA and the PFOS is non-detect in our other sources. So our other sources would be the Verdugo Basin, and there's no detections there, and then the majority of the water is from Metropolitan Water District, which is surface water.
Thank you.
Okay, and finally, Commissioner Lal, any comments or questions?
Not at this time. Thank you, Mr. DeGhetto, for a very thorough presentation on this topic. This is a very important topic to the local community, to the surrounding communities, and so we appreciate you keeping us apprised of the work that the utility is doing to limit or eliminate these chemicals from our drinking water. Thank you.
All right. Okay. I do not have any questions myself. I'm just going to congratulate the staff for doing these reports and presenting them to us. Actually, relative to what is being measured in the water and what is being used by a consumer, whether using a Teflon or a dental floss, what kind of exposure, are we talking here? If I floss my teeth, am I getting as much as this by a cup of water or something to that extent?
I don't think there's data specifically on like the different level, but the pathways, right, is ingestion. So drinking it is like a pathway of getting it straight into you. So I think that's why those numbers are in parts per trillion.
Okay.
But I mean, if you notice, like there aren't Teflon cookware anymore
I see.
available. So
All right, and finally, any further questions from any of the commissioners? Just a general opportunity to everybody. Okay, let's move on to the next report.
4B, Low Carbon Fuel Standard Program.
Mr. President, Commissioners, my name is Craig Keenan. I'm the Deputy General Manager of Business Services at GWP, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the Low Carbon Fuel Standard Program and the GWP CARES program. If you could put up slide 1, I know there's a delay. Can you tell me when that's up?
It's up on our end.
Okay. So the low carbon fuel standard was adopted in 2009 to reduce the intensity of transportation fuel carbon intensity by 20% by 2030. Under the LCFS, utilities receive marketable credits based on the number of EVs sold in their service territory and electricity sold through public EV charging stations. These credits are valuable to companies that need to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, so there's a market for these, and we can sell our credits into the market and receive funds. GWP currently has about 28,000 credits valued at about $5.5 million. These funds are to be used to support local electric transportation efforts. To continue to participate in this market and receive these credits, we joined are in the process of joining the statewide point of sale EV rebate program. That will be, for our area, will be administered by Southern California Edison. And by joining, we get to continue earning about 12,000 credits a year. Those credits are valued at about $2.4 million each year. So if we had declined to participate in the point of sale, we would have lost any future credits. So if we go on to slide 2. The initial cost to participate in this point of sale program is about $382,000. The cost will be paid through the sale of these low carbon fuel standard credits. There will be ongoing costs. They're about 20% of the value earned each year through 2022 and about 25% in 2023. Everything will be paid through the sale of the credits, though. And all EVs purchased or leased in Glendale are eligible to receive rebates through this program. And we expect the total value of rebates to GWP customers to exceed the cost of participation. That's the presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, let's follow the same method as we did last time. Commissioner Avanesian, did you have any comments or questions about the presentation?
Yes, actually. First of all, thank you very much for the presentation. But I'd like to understand that 12,000 credit that was mentioned, how it is measured.
That was based on information we had on the value of the credit in a recent sale. That value was $198 per credit, and that's how we valued the $5.5 million. And for the annual amount of $2.4 million, we used the same $198.
Commissioner Avanesian, any further questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Flanagan, any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Craig. Good presentation on the LCFS. Are we getting credits for our CNG buses and CNG trucks, or for the therms of gas that we're putting in those city-owned vehicles?
That question, I don't know the answer to that. This is for electric vehicles. I could find out if we receive credits, though. I don't have that information right now.
Okay, I know there's a pathway for CNG buses to get credit. It's not nearly as lucrative as the zero carbon intensity pathway for electric. It's another revenue stream. But thank you for the presentation. I'm glad that we're participating in the LCFS program. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. All right, Commissioner Jasmadarian, please. Any comments or questions?
Just a good presentation, no questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Lal, any comments or questions?
Just curious, and I'm sorry if I missed this, but when it says that the funds are meant to be used for local electric transportation programs, does that mean programs that are within the city limits? So does that mean that those credits would then be used to fund transportation here, or I kind of lost the plot at that point?
Commissioner Lowe, those are funds for use within our service territory. Then they will go to benefit our customers in Glendale. Does that mean that those are the funds that are then being used for rebates? Yeah,
or
they'll be used for rebates, educational programs, installing public chargers, those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you. I just needed clarity on that. Thank you.
And I do have a follow-up question, Mr. Keenan. The rebates that Commissioner Lal was asking about, do we have some sort of a breakdown as to how they have been used so far, whether installations or rebates for cars? Do we have any kind of breakdown in general?
We have not. We haven't sold any of our credits yet.
Okay.
So we still have the full amount. If after we sell them, we'll start using them on these programs.
I see. And do we have an anticipated date on doing that?
I believe we're in the process of setting up the contract so we can start selling them in the next few months.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Keenan. All right, to all the commissioners and en masse, any further questions on this presentation?
Just a quick one, Craig. What is the name of the broker? Have you selected a broker to represent the city?
No, we haven't gotten that far in the process.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right. Having no further questions, let's move on to the next report.
4C, GWP Care Program.
Mr. President, Commissioners, the new Glendale Cares program that we've just got approval is to help mitigate the economic impact on our customers from COVID-19. This program is for both electric, residential, and business. It'll provide a one-time bill credit to customers that meet the eligibility criteria. Customer enrollment will be from July 1st to the end of October. We go to the next slide. So I already covered the first one. So for detailed information on the eligibility guidelines, customers can go to www.glendalepa.gov/GWP Cares. Customers will be enrolled on a first-come, first-served basis up to the budget cap. And We do have a number of low-income seniors in Glendale, what are called Glendale Care customers. Those are the customers that receive our monthly discount on the electric bill. We are in the process of automatically providing them with their discount, so they don't need to apply. We have about 12,000 of those customers enrolled. We go to the next slide. The bill credit will be $150 for residential electric customers in the single-family homes, $80 to multifamily, $60 to residential low-income in the senior care, and a bill credit of $150 to eligible businesses that were forced to close by the COVID-19 order. And then the next slide just gives the website again. Be happy to answer any questions on the program.
All right. Commissioner Avanesian, any questions or comments about this presentation?
Yes, I have a question. What is the limit of this credit? How much is the dollar amount of this limit?
So single-family residential customer will get that apply and are eligible will get a one-time $150 credit. Multifamily, they'll get an $80 credit. Senior care is a $60 credit, and then business customers would get $150. So one-time credit to the bill.
So my question is, what is the aggregate limit
how
of
much
that?
the total cost?
Yeah.
But right now the budget is right around $3 million. We expect upwards of 25,000 people to apply.
Okay. Commissioner Avanesian, any further questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Flanagan, any questions or comments?
Yes, thank you. And just following on that, the cap of the number served, that was great to get that $3 million program. Expect 25,000 people to apply and participate. And then the question: how do you? I wouldn't know how to come up with the numbers that you came up with, the dollars for those different customer segments. I mean, I'm sure anything helps, right, in this time of crisis. But what was the thinking, or what was the methodology, or how did you analyze that and come up with the values?
We wanted to give I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but it was based on the average bill, monthly bill for each of the customer classes. Single family, obviously, they use more, and they're usually larger households. So we wanted to come up with a number that approximately gave the same percent bill reduction for each of the single, multifamily, and the seniors.
And that was what the percentage, about what? About 50% or 25% or?
I think it's closer to 60.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I know,
okay.
like for senior care, it's more than that. I mean, their bills are probably $40 to $50 a month. So that would cover most of their whole bill, or more than their whole bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. All right, Commissioner Jasmadarian, please. Any comments or questions?
Just one question. Are you going to be able to look for any federal funding or state funding to help offset any of this cost or any costs associated with people not being able to pay because of the pandemic?
This program is paid through our public benefit charge funds, so it's not through electric service funds. It's through a separate fund. Regarding other maybe federal monies, there is the LIE program that provides bill assistance that our customer service representatives offer to customers. I'm not aware of any federal grants or loan type programs for this kind of support right now. Not that there wouldn't be, I don't know of it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jasmadarian. Okay, Commissioner Lal, any comments or questions?
Are you going to be, I would imagine that you'll be tracking the response to the program as the pandemic continues. So when would you be coming back to present to us again on this issue?
Well, we would do that at your pleasure. Whenever you would like me to come back and give you some numbers, I'd be prepared to do that.
I'd love to have an update sooner rather than later so that we can monitor the demand for the program. The pandemic is the response and the impacts of it are unknown in scope and duration. So, at our last meeting, it would have been hard to imagine that it would have been this long until we met again, and that we would be in the situation that we're now in. So I would love to hear back from you sooner rather than later as to what the demand for the program is.
Okay.
It's a very important program that you're doing.
Sure.
I appreciate
I whenever you would like to have that happen, I'll be there.
President Kadikian, members of the commission, Commissioner Lal, I would suggest that when we get to agenda forecast, we can take this one up. It sounds like a very valuable discussion that we could have at a future meeting, and then we can find the right time and place on the agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, I do not have any questions. Thank you with regards to the presentation. Again, I want to give all the commissioner en masse any kind of opportunity to say final words on this presentation before we move on. Any comments? Hearing.
This is Avanesian. I have a question which is not very much related to that. If anybody be able to answer, I would be grateful. On electricity bills, somebody asked me there is something called demand fee. I want to understand what is that and how it is variable from one month to other month.
I don't know. Is that directed at myself, Commissioner, or is that at Mike DeGhetto?
He's inquiring, I'm sorry, Commissioner Avanesian, I didn't quite understand the question. Could you repeat it for the group here?
Yeah, on the electricity bill, there is an item called demand fee. I want to understand how it is calculated and how it is variable from one month to other month.
Commissioner Avanesian, I think what you're referring to is called the demand charge. And I guess Craig Keenan, you might be the most appropriate person to answer. But again, this isn't on the agenda for today. So I would suggest maybe that if you're able to answer quickly, we could do that. But otherwise, let's maybe put that over to agenda forecast.
Sure. It is not urgent. Somebody asked me, and being commissioner, I couldn't answer. So that's why I'm asking.
Basically, I thought this, to get a better, more detailed answer, we should agendize it. But the demand charge is based on the highest amount of electricity used in any one period. So, and it's based on the highest levels of demand over the last 12 months. So it's basically a cost to serve you when you're using the most electricity. we have to have an infrastructure to be able to provide that to you, and that's generally what a demand charge is for.
Okay, thank
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keenan. All right, so let's at this point move on to next agenda item, which is oral communication.
Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The general manager may refer the matter to appropriate staff for investigation and report.
Okay, I am looking on my display here. There does not seem to be any question lining up or lighting up. So we're gonna, at this point, move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda forecast. Okay. So I don't know if the commissioners are all have their agenda forecast sheet in front of them, something marked 6A on the upper right corner. And we can begin discussing. My only comment, the next meeting seems to be scheduled is August 3rd, which I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be out of town. So I'm not another commissioner could handle the duties of the president to moderate this meeting on August 3rd, or we could schedule it for another date. Ms. Godinez, your input, please.
President Kadikian, I would suggest that we have another commissioner who's willing to serve as pro tem to chair that meeting, provided that we can at least get a quorum for the meeting. I guess I'm just not sure if we can get the meeting room or what the logistics are of getting that scheduled. I guess that would be another alternative if it's this commission's pleasure to reschedule it for another date if we can get that arranged.
Okay. Commissioners, any input on regarding the date change or a pro tem commissioner acting as a president?
I would be happy to act as pro tem on that day if needed.
Okay. So, and okay, sounds good. The only issue that remains is quorum, and we'll review that at that point, I assume. All right, let's go ahead with the agenda items that are listed. Any comments with regards to the August 3rd agenda items that are listed?
President Kadikian, I had two comments.
Sure.
I think where it says annual consumer confidence report, that might be a repeat of Water Division Consumer Confidence Report. So, I mean, I think it's just our consumer confidence report is from water.
I see. So it's just a duplicate
Yeah.
entry over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just, we call it that because it's in the Safe Drinking Water Act. That's what it's called. And then, we're not going to have the urban water management plan. I think that might have been a carryover from a prior year.
Okay.
That'll be, yeah.
So we're removing the urban water management plan?
Yeah, we won't have that.
Okay. Are we removing it to another date or just removing it completely?
Just for now, take it off, and then once we get into it, because we're not even in the phase where we've gotten kind of the rules yet from the state on how to prepare it for the next round. So.
Also, I see the GWP Commission election secretary, and if I recall and then we have another one in December for president and secretary, so I'm not sure what we're doing.
President Kadikian, because we had a change in the makeup of our commission, we lost our secretary. So this is really up to the commission if you want to elect someone in the interim for the few months until December. It's kind of at your pleasure. And if you're not going to be here at the next meeting, another question is whether you want to hold this on the August meeting or carry it over for a future meeting. That said, I guess we don't have a meeting in September, so at that point it's getting close to the regularly scheduled annual election date.
And is it solely at my pleasure or the whole commission's pleasure?
The commission's.
Okay. I mean, my suggestion is, given that I was a secretary and the amount of work that I did didn't matter too much, I would suggest we move it to the August 1st, and then at that point decide whether we want to just merge it into the December meeting or not.
So in other words, just to be clear, to carry over the item on the agenda forecast, but not to agendize it for next month? Or
Sorry, I meant I might move it to October and then decide. At the October meeting whether we want to do a separate secretary election or just wait for December. That's my suggestion. I would welcome input from all the commissioners. Let's start with Commissioner Avanesian. Any input on that issue about electing the secretary in next meeting, or put it for October to decide whether we're going to do it at that point or December?
For me, it doesn't matter. So I leave this for others.
Okay, Commissioner Flanagan.
It doesn't matter to me, but if you need a secretary in the short term, I'll be happy to volunteer for that.
Okay, Commissioner Jasmadarian.
It really doesn't matter to me either. So, yeah.
And Commissioner Lal, being the longest terming commissioner, your input is the most valuable. Why don't you tell us?
I tried to unmute myself because I was laughing when I heard that. That sounds funny. I think we could go ahead and I don't know how this jives with the rules, so I'll leave it up to our legal expert to determine that. But we could always elect a secretary and see if it could be a 14-month term rather than a 2-month term.
Okay.
That certainly is an option, Commissioner Law, members of the commission.
Okay. Right.
So, well, let's agendize it for the October meeting.
Yeah, we'll just do it. Let's do it in October.
And we'll decide at that point. Fair enough.
Okay.
All right. Any other further comments about the August meeting agenda items from the commissioners? Okay.
I have a question. This is Ed Flanagan. I have a question about, as we look forward, do we have a planned agenda item to review the GWP Clean Power Plan? I know that there was a lot of energy was put into after the decision was made to downsize the Grayson repowering. There was a big focus on getting an RFP out to all sorts of companies to bring in distributed resources into the city and storage, including storage. Is that on our radar for these meetings?
Okay, Mr. DeGhetto or Ms. Godinez, if you guys want to answer one of this question.
Commissioner Flanagan and members of the commission, that's very much on our radar as GWP staff working on this matter in a very detailed and thorough manner. As far as the timing for bringing it back to this commission, I think we need to defer to Mr. Zern about that and report back, but that's definitely something that is going to come back to this commission for input and review.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer and for your work with it. I know that I've been asked several times, new commissioner, what's happening, and I didn't know the answer. So I would request that we get an update as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. Any other comments about the August agenda items?
I would be curious to know what, if any, impact the transformation of our work and life habits has had on both the operations and the demand on GWP's systems. We've gone from a situation where we had, I understand that the majority of the customers in GWP are residential customers, but still we have some major job centers and business centers in our district. We have huge commercial centers, and with people being at home for extended periods of time and using their utilities at home versus using them in these large concentrated buildings, I'm just curious to know how this has affected GWP's operations and systems.
Now, did you, Commissioner Lal, did you want some sort of a report on that, or did you want to, was this just a question and you'd like an answer?
It's more more of a question that I'm throwing out there. I mean, I know that many times when Steve Zern joins our meetings, he gives us a sort of generalized update based on the current weather and other things like wildfires, and it's more in his general comments as opposed to a presentation. I'm not really looking for a presentation. I'm just looking for a more, an update on how things have been going during the pandemic.
Okay, maybe that would be a question on the next commission meeting, which we can ask, and maybe Mr. DeGhetto would have some data to provide for us at that point.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So, any other comments about the August 3rd agenda items, please? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the September 7th, where the meeting is canceled. No special meeting, Labor Day. Nothing we can add or do about that. And next item is the October 5 meeting. Agenda items are there. Any comments or suggestions from the commissioners? Let's start with Commissioner Avanesian.
No, actually, this is okay for me.
Okay. Commissioner Flanagan.
No comments.
Okay. Commissioner Jasmadarian.
No comments?
Commissioner Lal.
No comment.
Okay. I don't either. And the November 2nd, that's just a legislative update. Any comments from any of the commissioners? I'm not going to call by name.
No, that's okay.
Okay. All right. And finally, we have the December 7 GWP Commission election, president and secretary at the time. That's going to be the annual. Any other agenda items any of the commissioners would like to add or suggest at any of these meetings? Okay. I'm not going to call by name. If you guys have ideas, go ahead and say. Okay. Forever hold your peace. Okay. All right. I do not have any further comments about the agenda forecast. Next item is adjournment. All right. How do we do the adjournment with these kinds of sessions?
So we need a motion to adjourn in a second. And
Okay.
then
I need a motion from one of the commissioners to adjourn.
Yeah, motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Law seconds. Commissioner Avanesian motion. Thank you, everybody, and the meeting is adjourned.